Nigeria's justice reform faces numerous challenges. It includes delays, corruption, inadequate infrastructure. These issues hinder access to justice, particularly for vulnerable populations. There are key areas for this reform. Talk about judicial independence, strengthening judicial independence to ensure impartial decision making. What about case management? Implementing efficient case management systems to reduce delays. Then another person would say access to justice. How do you expand access to justice for marginalized groups, including women, children, and people with disabilities? And then here comes prison reform, addressing prison overcrowding, poor conditions, and inadequate rehabilitation programs. What about anti-corruption efforts, strengthening anti-corruption laws at the institutions to combat corruption within the justice system? And then the recent reforms look at Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, aimed at speeding up criminal trials and reducing delays. And then the National Judicial Policy 2016, focusing on promoting judicial independence, accountability, and transparency. What about Prison Reform Bill of 2020, which of course sought to address prison overcrowding and improve prison conditions? And then there are challenges and then future directions. How will the judiciary wade through all these challenges and come out covering itself in great shining colors? This is the Eastern Eye. I'm Alex Obodo. You're welcome to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV. It's a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye is Chief Tom Anyafelude. He's the Editor-in-Chief, Judgment of the Supreme Court Law Report. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye. It's been a while.
Good evening, Alex. Good evening, viewers. Thank you.
All right, so let's get right into it. A lot of things have been said about Nigeria's judiciary, Nigeria's justice system. I mean, let me try to take it maybe one by one. Independence of the judiciary. Is it something that we only see on the pages of newspaper? Is it possible, really?
The Constitution made provision for independence of the judiciary. Funds accruing to the judiciary are allocated to the judiciary. But in practical terms, it's not so. The judiciary of Nigeria, in practical terms, is not independent. When capital projects are still sponsored by the executive, you are all aware of a recent development where a minister built houses and allocated it to judges. So in practical terms, the judiciary is not independent, but on paper. Independence of judiciary is alluded to, but in practical terms is not the case. When judges, the heads of course have monthly allocation from the head executive, when they cannot embark on capital projects, when workers are paid by the executive, and so forth and so on. So in practical terms, the judiciary is not independent.
I mean, you pointed out a few things, but it looks like the only indicator of that lack of independence of the judiciary is their lack of access to their own funds.
They don't have access to their own funds.
So whose fault is that, really?
It has been well provided in the Constitution how funds will be directly allocated to the judiciary, but that has not been the case. In fact, it has been subject of several litigations. You see Governors Forum going to court, and so forth and so on. You saw on going to court, the President Buhari making an order. So until the day when judiciary will, the funds of the judiciary will be directly allocated to the judiciary and managed by the heads of courts. that day is the day the judiciary will be said to be independent. Not when you want a pin or anything, any facility or any equipment, any amenity, you write to the governor. Then the governor has to approve, or the president has to approve before the judiciary assesses the money for that execution of that project. In that case, you cannot say that the judiciary is independent.
Okay, let's talk about the perception of the Nigerian judiciary, especially since after the 2023 general elections. It looks like the perception index has been very low since after that election. That people are always looking at the Nigerian courts as a place where anything goes. Is it really the case, or is this a problem? Well, because there are two arguments here. That when the case is political, you are almost sure to get what they call, there's a word for it, when they want to give a judgment.
Favorable judgment.
Yeah, they get a favorable judgment, or they go for technicalities.
Yes.
But if the case is about other things other than politics, people tend to get justice. I mean, there's usually no much issues around issues that are not political. But when the issue is political, you don't quite know what you get from the judiciary. Is this something Nigerians should worry about for a judiciary that's supposed to be the last hope of the common man?
Let me say from the onset that many judges are doing their work well, discharging justice with the fear of God. You know, when 5 fingers are clean and one is stained with oil, that one finger that is stained with oil may, pollute the other 4 fingers. So many judges are silently doing their work, discharging their judicial functions, but the few who are corrupt, and that one rotten egg can spoil a whole lot. So those corrupt ones dominate the press, dominate discussion, but the silent majority are not under focus. So it is only that minority, and that minority is a powerful minority, very influential minority. So to that extent, it's disturbing. Now, political cases, let us take the Federal High Court for instance. Under the Federal High Court Act, Nigeria as a nation, the whole of Nigeria is the territorial, influence, territorial jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. That is to say, bringing it down to the, level of the uninitiated in law.
That's right.
A Federal High Court here in Enugu can entertain a case emanating from a civil case emanating from Medugri, if it is assigned to the Federal High Court here. So a Federal High Court here in Enugu can entertain a civil matter emanating from Lagos. That is, the whole Nigeria is the territorial area of the Federal High Court. So the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, for instance, can entertain any civil matter. But you find a situation where all political cases emanating, for instance, from Rivers State go to Abuja. I do not know reason for that. All political cases will be assigned to judges sitting at the federal capital area. That is wrong, because that contravenes the Constitution. I mean, the Federal High Court Act, which says the Federal High Court has the entire country, the whole Nigeria as is, in territorial area.
So meaning it's also okay for them to go to the FCT?
No. So it is based on practice direction. There is a practice direction I learned that says that all political cases must have to be heard and determined by the Federal High Court sitting at Abuja. Now, if that is the case, it is wrong, because a practice direction or instruction by the head of courts cannot vary an act, cannot undermine the provisions of the act. So you cannot vest jurisdiction on a court using practice direction or rules of court. So I am surprised that most cases emanating from Rivers State are not handled by the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt.
Well, of course, now that you've mentioned Rivers State, it looks like it's become a test case for a lot of things, not just for the courts, even for the governance. So let's take a look at it now. One is that there are cases in Rivers High Court, and there are cases at the Abuja High Court. So how do you marry that? They are like two senior prefects from different schools. You cannot say that the senior prefect of Urban Boys is bigger than the senior prefect of Amide Secondary School. They are all senior prefects. So no one can tell the other to kneel down. That's what it is. So how do we solve the problem of courts of coordinate jurisdiction clashing on such issues?
The first thing is to understand that the High Court of Rivers State is a high court, and the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja is a high court. But there's what we call jurisdiction, substantive jurisdiction and territorial jurisdiction. The law creating a court, the law establishing a court provides for its jurisdiction. The jurisdiction of the Federal High Court is provided under Section 251 of the Constitution. So, when you now have this conflict, largely is based on misconception of the issue of jurisdiction. Now, Federal High Court has its own limited jurisdiction. It used to be known as Federal Revenue Court. It has to do with administration, management of the federal government or any of its agency, management of the Federal High Court or in any of its agency. Now, when you now start thinking, or when you think of the issue of budget, the issue of budget, it belongs to the exclusive jurisdiction of the High Court of Rivers State. Whether the governor presented a budget properly before a House of Assembly or not has nothing to do with the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. Now you are talking of a political party, administration of a political party, whether Damagun should go by 2027 or before 2027 or by 2025. It has nothing to do with the Federal High Court. Let me make it bold to say with authority that even this issue of allocation from the federation accounts, the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction to do that, entertain that. Now, again, although, let me not comment on that case because it is now pending before the Court of Appeal, and they have fixed it. They have concluded the addresses and ready for judgment. But speaking as a person, without reference to any case pending anywhere, no court has jurisdiction to deprive a party of its constitutional rights. Elects has a right to move about. The Constitution gives elects, Obodo, the right to move from place to place. No court in Nigeria can restrict elects from moving from place to place unless otherwise provided by the Constitution itself. The Constitution has limitation of movement. That right to movement is not absolute. So before a party is denied of constitutional rights, it must be expressly provided by the Constitution itself. Otherwise, you cannot deprive a party from its constitutional right. The right to benefit from the federation account is constitutional. That right accrues to the Rivers State by virtue of the Constitution. No court can now say, stop that constitutional right, suspend it.
But we're already doing that.
But that's what I'm saying this evening, that before you can deprive a party of a constitutional right, that it must be expressly provided. Like I give you example of a movement. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not absolute. The Constitution itself has placed limitation to freedom of speech. So no court can now impose its own terms, independent of the Constitution. So the right to derive benefits, the right for, to benefit from federation account is constitutional. It's derived from the Constitution itself. So the court cannot say, suspend that right, unless there's a provision in the Constitution which expressly provides that rights can be suspended.
That's right.
Under certain situations.
Good. Let me refer you back to what happened between the Lagos State and I think it was President Obasanjo, who was in power at that time, and the local government allocations were stopped. But at that time, it wasn't a court that made a pronouncement. I think it was more like, if you like, you can call it an executive order that stopped that allocation, because it was the president that refused to give them their allocation. So, does the president have the power to do that? Because at the end of the day, the moment monies are withheld, the assumption is that the federal government has withheld the monies belonging to Rivers State government or any other states in the federation. And who is the head of the executive?
Neither the president nor the courts can make order depriving a party of its constitution, of their constitutional rights. Neither the president nor the courts can make order depriving a party of their constitutional rights. The Constitution is supreme. It has provided rights, benefits to a party. The court cannot deprive that party, or unless that it must be in accordance with the Constitution itself. It must be in accordance with the Constitution itself. The right to personal liberty. The right to personal liberty. Tom Manya Flude has a right under the Constitution to liberty. That right can only be, deprived. That my right can only be deprived in accordance with the Constitution. Now, if there's a law made to safeguard the public, and the Tom Manya Flude has an infectious disease, I cannot say that I can move anywhere and anyhow because I have a right to movement. That right, the Constitution says that unless there's a law reasonably made, that can only deprive me of that right to liberty. So what I'm trying to say is that the so-called conflicts between state courts and federal courts emanate as a result of misconception, poor understanding of jurisdiction. The jurisdiction of the Federal High Court is limited, so much so as provided under Section 251 of the Constitution. It has no unlimited jurisdiction, just like the High Court of a state. Even the High Court of a state has limited jurisdiction to some extent, because some of the powers of the High Court has been transferred either to the Industrial Court or to the Federal High Court. So the High Court of a state cannot usurp the functions of the Industrial Court or the Federal High Court on the basis of unlimitedness of jurisdiction. So one has to be, aware of the extent and limits of the jurisdiction, both territorial and substantive.
Well, it's just something keeps worrying all the watchers of what's unfolding in Rivers State. And because they keep going to court and filing cases, and it doesn't look like all those in those courts are looking at all those acts you have cited here. And why does it look like people are deliberately being unmindful of these provisions you have cited?
It's what we call forum shopping. You go to a court where you obtain favorable judgments. And that is one of the responsibilities, one of the duties confronting the new CJN, to address this issue of forum shopping. Now, why should you, take all political cases to Abuja when the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt has equal jurisdiction? And if the president, or if the Federal High Court president made a practice direction directing all political cases to be transferred to Abuja, I'm saying this evening that it is illegal, because you cannot use rules of court or practice direction to confer jurisdiction on a court. Allow the provisions of the Federal High Court Act to prevail, and namely Section 19 which says that the Nigerian nation is the territorial unit of jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. And to that extent, the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, in Maiduguri, in Enugu. But you see these Federal High Courts here in Enugu, all these places are silent. Everything happens there in Abuja. And they now dish every day, they don't even mind the issue of jurisdiction. They say that their jurisdiction. And when a court is jurisdiction, whatever that court does amounts to a nullity.
Well, I mean, for those that are not lawyers, sometimes it sounds like
now,
we are...
I'm sorry, but yes, the jurisdiction is the power given to a court to,
that's right,
to determine a case. And that power is derived from the law establishing the court. That law gives also the, circumscribes the ambit of jurisdiction of the court, the power. You don't just do anything because you want to do it.
I'm sure, Chief Tom Anyafulude, that you are aware that the CJN has sanctioned some erring judges. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do you think this will create some form of sanity? Is it enough? Or is this just what you call it's just a drop in the ocean?
It's a drop in the ocean. However, there's a popular saying that a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with a step. That step is the step in the right direction. But there are still this issue, not only sanctioning. Now, you can only sanction a judge where that judge has committed a breach of, office, has done something in breach. But NJC has responsibilities, not only sanctioning of judges, but continuous education, monitoring, not only to sanction. Now, a judge is supposed to discharge their function without fear or favor. So a judge, when, discharging their function, will not be confronted with the, idea or reality that I will be sanctioned. I don't know what to do. No, much depends also on education. Like this issue of jurisdiction. I cannot understand why a Federal High Court judge should intermingle in the affairs of a political party. Where in law school, one of the subjects a lawyer is taught is jurisdiction, because it is cardinal. And most of the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, we were taught the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. But you see now that judges of the Federal High Court do not observe this issue of jurisdiction, and they can now use it to cause havoc. They cause havoc. Look at now what has happened in the case of Rivers State. You stop a federation account. You stop the account of the Rivers State government. Now, Alex, remember that the account of Rivers State government has dual nature. One, accruing to the state. The other, accruing to the local government. All of these monies were stopped by this order of this Federal High Court judge. Both the ones accruing to the state government, the ones accruing to the local government. Oh, no, you were not talking of independence of the judiciary. Even the judges' salaries are affected. So, how can you make an order stopping the allocation to the local government when the local government was not joined as a party in the suit? Can you make an order against a party, a non-party, somebody that was not involved? Tom Anyafulude is not a party between the Lex Obodo and Afia TV. And then you made a court now makes an order affecting Tom Anyafulude, who is not a party. So these are the issues. These are very big issues. Now let's microzone more into Rivers State and talk about the issue with the Rivers State House of Assembly on the legality of the 26 members or 27 members who are said to be legal now, and the court has asked them, the governor, to represent the budget. I mean, looking at the whole scenario, there have been court judgments back and forth on it. So now, a court judgment says, go back and present the budget because the people you presented to were not the legal members
of the authentic members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, how confusing all these activities that we're seeing? How confusing?
In the first place, which court has jurisdiction to determine the issue of budget, state budget, and its presentation? Is it within the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court or State High Court? If you ask me, I may be wrong. It is the Rivers State Government Judiciary High Court that has jurisdiction to determine presentation of budget by the governor. Now, you cannot ask somebody to go and represent before a body without determining the authenticity or legality of that body. The issue before now was whether they defected, whether under the law or constitution they defected to another political party or not. Now, some people are of the view that once they made pronouncement, that is automatic and final. But I do not agree. I may be wrong. It's still subject to the interpretation of the court to determine whether what happened, transpired at the House of Assembly of Rivers State is complete, movement from PDP to APC or not. It is the court that will interpret. You cannot say that something is automatic unless it has judicial pronouncement. It is the court that will say, yes, that what they did was defection, and therefore they have lost their seats. You cannot by your own interpret the constitution and arrive at that conclusion. However, you can also not say, go and represent the budget without determining the legality of what happened, transpired at the House of Assembly. So that is misconception. Some of us who are old in this profession weep when we see things being turned upside down. The court cannot say, go and represent without determining whether it is proper to do so. And that issue is still pending, as much as, I know. It's still pending. It has not been determined whether they are still members of PDP or APC. It's very, very fundamental.
All right. We'll take a break at this point here on the Eastern Eye. When we return, we will be asking Chief Tom Anyafulude about access to justice in Nigeria. How much access do we have for marginalized groups, women, children, and people with disabilities? Stay with us.
From the commercial nerve center of the southeastern Nigeria, the Abia State Government and Aba Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, ASIMA, invite manufacturers, investors, trade unions, captains of industries, and the general public to the 2024 Aba International Trade Fair Summit and Exhibition. Take advantage of these opportunities to showcase your business to the rest of the world. Improve your sales and brand visibility. Date 28 November to 7th December 2024. Venue Aba Mega Mall along Aba Umaya Expressway, Osisioma, Abia State. This message is endorsed by the Abia State Government and Aba Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, ASIMA. For partnership, sponsorship and participation enquiries, visit www.abainternationaltradefair.com. On Facebook at Aba International Trade Fair, on X Aba International Trade Fair, or call Marcus on 0806 605 4420 or Sam on 0802 826 9391. Aba International Trade Fair. Be a part of it.
75 days since the last day of last season. We are ready to do it all again.
Phil Foden is having the season of his life. Brilliant! Just brilliant! That is quite something!
Stay connected for all the football you want, starting from 5,100 Naira per month.
But why won't I be happy? Not just because it's festive season. It's moments of friendship and 60 million reasons to love. Small Pepe.
Babes, this dress is given.
Don't forget the earrings. Those are 2 reasons already.
The best reasons will make your heart beat faster. Come on! And make every laugh worth it. It's all about holding hands, sharing and enjoying happy times together.
Have more reasons to be happy with Niger dramas, football, and more smiles on DSTV this festive season. DSTV, your home of entertainment.
Across the bridge, there's no more sorrow.
It's a celebration of life as we express our gratitude to God for a life well spent. The family of late Godwin Onya from Udeji village, Amecho Konano, in Enugu South local government area, announces the glorious exit of their beloved matriarch, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, aunt, and sister, late Mrs. Grace Ogwebunam Onya Nea Chime. She was aged 79. Burial arrangements, Friday, November 29th, 2024. Service of songs at St. Matthew's Anglican Church, Udeji village, Amecho Konano at 4:30 p.m. Saturday, November 30th, 2024. Body leaves Eastern Medical Center, Enugu, to her hometown by 10 a.m. Funeral service and burial at her compound will take place, followed by a reception at the Amechi football field at Udeji village at 11 a.m. Sunday, December 1st, 2024. Thanksgiving service at St. Matthew's Anglican Church, Amechi Okunano at 10 a.m. She's survived by children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, sisters, other relatives, and friends. Announcer, Professor Chidi Eberonya, SSG, Enugu State, for the family.
Be unhappy again.
You're welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV. It's a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. And I still have Chief Tom Ayafulude here with me. And just before we go to the issue of access to justice, judges are appointed to head a lot of aspects of the Nigerian judiciary. The process, how transparent are the processes? Because I'm sure it's not just one process that you follow to become a judge. So just help us paint a picture of how this works. For one to become a judge, maybe of a high court, customary court, of appeal court, and even the Supreme Court.
It is political in nature. And so, sadly enough, before one becomes a judge, that person must have connection. If you don't have connection, you can never be a judge in Nigeria. Either you are, related to the governor knows you, or the Senate President, or the Speaker of the House.
Has it always been like that, though?
As much as I know, it has always been like that. Because the Constitution says that it is the governor that appoints a judge. There are 3 arms of government. The governor is the head of the executive, and it is that governor that appoints the head of the judiciary. The judges, members of the judiciary. So it has high political content. The process is highly politicized. Okay, the judges themselves, like the CJN or the chief judge, must always recommend their own persons, and the governor will now bring their own too. So merit is not thrown out, aside. It's not considered, and that is why you are having so much of these judgments you cannot explain. How can a judge of the Federal High Court or State High Court make an order ex parte, a final order ex parte. Somebody wants to, be installed as Igwe. Without hearing the other party, you say, do not install this man as Igwe. And that's all. That is a final order. The way we were taught at the law school is that you cannot make a final order without hearing the other party. You can make an interim order pending the determination of the motion on notice. No, I'm becoming technical.
No. I mean, go ahead.
Yes. Elementary things. It's showing mediocrity is very dominant now in the judiciary. And it pains us that you see elementary principles of law being trampled upon, being thrown aside. No regard, no sensitivity to principles of law. Now, because if Tom Anyaflude is the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tom Anyaflude will appoint the wife of Tom Anyaflude or children or whatever. So it has descended to that level where you do not, give any, points to, ability or capacity. So that is it. I'm advocating this evening that the bar should have a say. Nigerian bar should have much say in the appointment of judges. And let the president or governor not appoint judges. I do not see the rationale for that. It is not everything that is done in America that we are going to copy here because we're not Americans. Now they conducted the election. I did not hear of an establishment of any tribunal. I have not heard that Kamala Harris has proceeded to any tribunal. I have not heard that Trump is now being sued by anybody. So we cannot copy what is happening because they are more advanced. Let the president or governor not appoint judges because they appoint their cronies. Let it be transparent. Let it be open. Let it be based on merit. A high-powered, committee of senior advocates, judges will now constitute themselves and interview, these candidates. Ask them simple questions, and then determine their capacity. So the way it requires constitutional amendments. Let governors, let presidents not appoint judges in Nigeria, because it has not helped us. You cannot continue doing one thing one way and getting the same result. You have to change system. Yeah. And I'm advocating for a change whereby appointment will be based on merit and capacity.
And for this to happen, you will need some amendment to the laws.
The Constitution of Nigeria has to be amended. Let the governor or president not appoint judges.
So who would amend that constitution? Because
the House of
for over 20 years now, the National Assembly,
the National Assembly
tinkering with that constitution.
Let them change. That constitution requires fundamental change. It's not working. And I also advocate this evening this issue of immunity. Let it be restricted to only criminal cases. Where a governor has infringed, he can be sued. Look at somebody that was being, the governor of a state helped a fugitive to escape. A governor that is wanted. Another governor now came in there, took him away on basis of immunity. I heard, I do not know whether I'm correct, that the Prime Minister of Israel will soon appear in court on charges of corruption. But in the case of Nigeria, I'm advocating for immunity in respect of criminal cases, or even if there is no immunity in criminal cases, everybody will sit up. You don't just embezzle money anyhow. I know of a governor that embezzled money, no accountability. That governor is walking about today as a free person. And then EFCC is saying that they're there. The EFCC is merely selective. It's selective in its prosecution. So the day we are ready to change Nigeria, we have to start with the constitution, and it has to be, we must have to be very decisive.
Yes, we'll have about 9 minutes to go. So let's take a look at issues around access to justice, which has been one of the problems. There are people who want justice but are not getting them, and they're not getting the justice. There's a saying that justice delayed is justice denied. And what about those who don't get it at all? It's not just that it's been delayed, but they don't have access to it.
There are constitutional provisions that enable a person have access to justice. If you don't have money to engage a lawyer, you avail yourself of the services of Legal Aid Council. There are numerous NGOs now willing to offer legal services. You have Prawa, you have Sijab, and so forth and so on. So there are mechanisms, there are institutions, there are processes that will ensure access to justice. If somebody is standing trial for capital offense, like murder, rape, you have the services of Legal Aid Council. You have the services of even the NBA offer free legal services. So women are given legal services even in cases of divorce. A court does not even dissolve marriage instantly. A court will always give opportunity for the parties to reconcile. A court can appoint mediator. Somebody go and mediate and appoint a mediator, a reverend father, a seasoned priest or pastor, report back to court, try to settle these people. So there are instruments, there are institutions, there are processes which ensure access to justice to women and children. We have juvenile courts. We have juvenile courts. In our we have the child's rights law. These laws, institutions try to protect the interest of children. You don't just try a child anyhow. A child is given some benefits and privileges. So that is not a major issue in Nigeria.
All right. So let's talk about prison reforms. In Nigeria, they are now called the Nigeria Correctional Services. The issue about prison overcrowding, poor conditions, and inadequate rehabilitation programs. And we know that the courts are very, very key in the operation of our operations of our correctional systems, because usually it's in court that someone will be sentenced, for instance, to go to what we now call the correctional centers, but we know it's the prison. That's what I call it. So how do we get to the point where when a judge commits someone to prison or to a correctional center, that the person will get corrected and not get into some kind of bondage? What needs to happen for there to be prison reforms? Because almost all the prison facilities across the country are suffering one dilapidation or the other. The other time, the one in Abuja, the walls gave way because there was some form of attack. Everywhere, you are told that the correctional facilities are overcrowded. Facilities for 100 people now house 500 people. Facilities for 500 now house 2,000. What is it we need to do, especially from the standpoint of the judiciary? Some people there, I hear, are not even supposed to be there in the first place.
Alex, one of the greatest problems we have as a nation is corruption. We are not lacking good laws and institutional reforms. They are there on paper. But the problem is implementation. These things, you budget money for expansion of the the correctional centers. These monies are embezzled. You come there, you still see overcrowding. So it's not the issue of putting reforms on paper. It's issue of implementation. once we curb corruption in this country, Nigeria will now move to a level that is unprecedented corruption. And since 1999, when we came back, we embarked on this democratic experience, I have never seen any government since 1999 that has tackled corruption, headlong. I have never seen. So all these suggestions we are making here, you sit down here and make suggestions, speak grammar. At the end of the day, at the stage of implementation, ants will eat everything up. So now, but in case of prison reform, I will say that it is a good idea that prison has now been removed from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list. It means that state governments can, establish their own prison system. Well, let's hope that will also help. But majorly, the issue is corruption.
All right. The issue is corruption. I mean, there are lots of things we're supposed to discuss, but I'm not quite sure we'll have the time to wriggle them. But of course, I have to thank you so much, Chief Tom Ayafalude, for talking to us tonight on the Eastern Eye. It's always a pleasure. I will have to ask you to come back sometime in the future to expand on a few other things we're not able to talk about.
I'm a retiree. I'm very free. Whenever you call me, I'll answer you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
He's the editor-in-chief of the Laws of the Supreme Court Law Report.
And you have forgotten that.
I always forget that. I hope I will not be fined.
Yeah, well, you
white cow.
No, not a cow. Just one cock and two birds of yam.
All right. That's quite modest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lex.
And that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be here tomorrow same time. My name is Alex Obodo. Up next is Nka with Jumai Bulama Ashebu, JBA. Good night.
Homecoming event happening near you this week. Happening near you this week. For more information about these events, visit www.afiahomecoming.com. For inquiries and sponsorship, call 0703 645 5315. Come home and make memories.